You're watching Every Days and Saturdays, USCC veteran. Let's go, baby. And here's your host, Bryan. And what's going on, friends and family? Oh, look at this. We get it all messed up. How are we doing today? Welcome to another great episode of Coffee Talk with Bryan. And of course, we have Marie with us. How we doing, Marie?
I'm here.
She's here. We're all here. We're ready to go. Today will be my reflection on when I got out and how it was for me since last time we listened to Marie, and we just thought we'd kind of break it up into two different episodes. We listen to hers and then we'll listen to mine. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's my day today. Woo! Got to get myself going on this coffee. Speaking of coffee, let's go ahead and brew us up some coffee before we get into it. All right. I hope everybody is enjoying their day, their night, whenever you may be listening to this. I hope you're enjoying your time. But for me, we're going to go ahead and talk about when I got out. So, when I was getting ready to get out, I had just got back from deploying over in the Middle East, and I came back in July. So I mean, I had a little bit of time back on base, getting myself prepared, but didn't really have a plan when I got out.
What year
You
was
know,
this?
the year 2004 is the year I'm getting ready to get out. And because I actually had saved up 63 days, though, you were allowed to save up your leave, and I had saved up to the maximum you were able to save up, and then I was able to take those 63 days off early as I was getting out. So I actually got out probably more in the end of 2003 time frame. I think it was around the holidays. And I ended up deciding to go back home because I really wanted to stay out in Oceanside, California, because I had lived off of base and stuff like that, and I was getting myself used to living out there. But trying to get a job and then sustain a place to live, I had 2 months to really kind of figure it out. And the time was just going by so quick, right, and running out so fast. And so I went to the safe bet, and that's to go back home, where I'm familiar, and it's easier. And my stepmom had worked at a place called Northrop Grumman, and it's an aerospace company, and she had been there about 18 years at the time, maybe, when I went to go. So she had been there for a while and had known quite a few people, and she asked if I would think about maybe getting a job there because she had an opportunity in the receiving department. And I was like, well, heck yeah. I mean, why not? I don't really have anything else lined up. So that's what I did. I went ahead and applied for Northrop Grumman. I would say within a little bit of 2 weeks, 3 weeks time or so, I did receive a call back, and I went to go to the interview. And when I went to the interview, I found out the guy who's interviewing me was a Vietnam veteran, and he's a Marine. And I was like, okay, well, bam, that already had us chatting about stuff. As soon as I get into the interview, it's about you're a Marine, and and then we start talking about our Marine time. And then I find out that his boss is a Marine. I was like, oh shit, this is really good for me. And by the time I walk out of that interview, we really didn't talk about the job. We really talked a lot about the Marines. So I walked away thinking, gosh, dang it, man, I don't even know if I got the job. We talked too much about the Marines. But lo and behold, I got the call back and found out I got the job in the receiving department, and I was like, "Oh man, sweet," And it was making $18.50 an hour. So back then, getting out making that kind of money wasn't bad. It really wasn't too bad of a start for me. So I was super excited that I got that job. I knew that this was kind of more of a career type of job, and it was something that I can probably try to sustain and work. So then when I got this job, everything kind of fast forwards for me. I end up getting um, like a townhouse with one of my best friends that I went to high school with, and me and him, we decided to get up a townhouse together, and it was like, yeah, bro, this is we're adults now, and we get to hang out, but we have jobs, right? And his job is like a night job, and then he does the night job, and then my job, I have to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning was my start time. So a lot of times I would be getting up for work and dude would just be, going to sleep. So it was fun, but it was like also like we're adults now. So it wasn't like party city, and I'm trying to make my life happen. So I can't be going off and doing crazy stuff. And so we lived together for a little while. And of course, I before I even get out, I had gone home and I had met my ex-wife at the time at a club. And she, gave me her number and we hit it off really quick. So I was already kind of dating her at that when I came back home as well. So that would also made me want to come back home even more, that I had this girlfriend that I had. And I'm all like in love and all this crap because I haven't had a girlfriend in a long time. I just I fell in love with one of the first girls I hang out with when I'm back. And so I'm going to work, I'm living with my best friend, and everything's all good and fine and dandy. And I would say, sheesh, within 2, 3 months of living with my buddy, I get the news from the girlfriend. I'm pregnant. What? What? Oh my gosh, no. And so I'm kind of like, oh, I'm not, I'm freaking out, but I was also at the point where I wasn't like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have a kid, but I was like, oh no, I'm not ready for this, I mean, at the same time. So I, I'm here, I'm living with my best friend and got this job and boom, got the news that I'm just not wanting to hear. And so at this point in time, I have to tell my buddy, like, well, actually, I remember him kind of making the actual. He actually brought it to me because she started really hanging out at the apartment a lot. She also had a little 3-year-old at the time too. So the little 3-year-old would come with her. So this little bachelor pad turned really kind of into a home, a little family home real quick. And my buddy Danny just was like, "Hey, bro, if you want me to move on out, man, that way they can all move in." And I was just like, "Oh man, sorry, bro," and it'd be work out. Probably you're right. Probably right. It'd probably work out better. And so that's what happened. He moves out. She moves in with her little girl, and now here we are. I got a pregnant girlfriend. I'm a instant dad all of a sudden to a little 3-year-old who her dad's not really a part of her life. So I'm kind of having to step in, and I'm not really. This is new territory for me. I wasn't ready to be a dad right off rip, to a 3-year-old at that, and a little girl. So it was very like, whoa, This is really happening so fast for me. And I've always kind of been the one that when I wanted to always do the right thing. So when I found out that I got her pregnant, my next thing is like, oh, well, now I need to marry her. I got her pregnant. Now we have to get married. I don't want to have a little baby out of wedlock and all this stuff. That's the way, I've always been taught and raised. So I went along with trying to do the right thing, right? And so we got married.
Did you feel like you were doing it more out of obligation, or did you feel like you wanted to be with her and this was just kind of a good situation?
Unfortunately, I can say this now, but I felt obligated almost throughout the whole thing because I started getting pressured to marry her once she got pregnant. She really started putting that pressure on me to the point that I didn't even want to ask her, but it was like, all right, fine. Will you marry me? Like it was almost to that degree where it wasn't even romantic. It wasn't special. It was like, all right, well, shit, but I'm tired of you constantly bugging me about it. Will you marry me then? And it, it was kind of a sad situation, but and I probably shouldn't have allowed myself to be pushed into it because that also didn't help make us go into a healthy relationship. And now there's a little bit of some resentment going on and all this because now I'm being pushed into things that I really wasn't ready for. I could look back at that now and say it's all
Mhm.
resentment, right?
But when
Didn't
you're
know
in it, you're
when
like,
don't
this is
realize
the
what you're
right thing to
going
do.
on, correct? And
Yes.
there's a lot of people on the sideline saying, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing?" And you're over there just still playing in your game, right? You're not caring about what the sideline's saying. Probably should have listened to the sideline a little bit more back then because my life became really rough for me because of my choices that I made. And I also, I had to pay a huge price for these choices, so um, within months, so when she gets pregnant, we find out maybe around February or March. And I'm literally just still February 24th is when my actual EAS day was, or sorry, February 22nd was when my actual EAS day, 2004. And like I said, I was already kind of out like around December or so because of the 63 days.
Now, what does EAS stand for? For us, we call it ETS,
Yeah,
estimated or
it's
an end of time of service or something like that.
end of active service.
Okay,
End of
EAS.
active, yeah,
Okay.
end of active service. So when we get done, yeah, so all this is happening around that time frame, February, March. My buddy moves out, and then I probably ask her to marry me around April, May time frame, and then boom, we're getting married in August, right? And it's kind of a shotgun wedding. We're doing it in my mom's backyard of her house, and my dad and mom were divorced, didn't get along well, and it turns into a major fight where I actually don't even talk to my dad for years after this. He
Like
doesn't
at
even
your wedding, there was a
before
fight.
the wedding, before the wedding, because my dad found out it's at my mom's house, and my mom and dad did not get along with each other.
So they made the
So
wedding about you or about themselves instead
he
of the
did.
wedding be about you. Yeah.
He did. He really did. And he was helping me move because we had bought in a house. That's right. All this stuff happened so fast for me. So when we get pregnant, we wanted to go buy a house too. So we made sure we bought the house. I think we got in the house in July. And then we end up getting married in August. So my dad's helping me move from my apartment in Lancaster to the house that we bought in Roseman. And on the way when we're driving, I'm telling my dad that we're going to be getting married and it's going to be I'm telling him it's going to be at my mom's house because I already know it's going to be a problem. And so I wanted to talk to him about it, and it turned into a big fight, really big fight. And he went home and we didn't talk. Like I said, he didn't even meet My daughter, when she was born, and he didn't meet my son until he was maybe 2 or 3. Um, Due to this whole big fight of the wedding, and he just, he lost it, and I get it. He wanted to be a part of it, and I think we just could have handled it better. So anyhow, we move in, and I'm living in Roseman, and I'm trying to do everything. I got this job at Northrop Grumman. I found out that I could play semi-pro football. I'm super excited about that opportunity to continue to play. And then, as I'm at the gym working out, I get approached by a coach that I, got coached by when I was a kid, and we got to talking, and I found out he's coaching at the high school, and he was like, "Hey, you want to coach?" And I was like, "I would love to coach." I'm just like, ha, ha, ha. I love football so much, and I'm just gravitating to all these opportunities are coming. But also at the same time, I'm a newlywed. I'm going to be a new dad coming up here really shortly. We get married in August. My daughter is due in September, and I'm literally plugging in all this stuff as all this kind of is happening, because I'm out now, and now I'm trying to do everything. I want a job. I want to play football again. Oh, coaching, hell yeah, I'll do that too. Oh, education, I can go to school and get my education too. All right, cool. Let me do it all. Yeah, that really was not a good thing to do, right? Fresh out, right? Because I'm juggling myself everywhere, and everything's kind of not being 100% as it should, because my focus is elsewhere.
You've got so many plates that are rolling at this point, and you're like just trying to balance them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm fresh out, and here I am, also didn't really deal with the fact that I just came from home from being bombed at, and all these other things going on in my life. I'm just flooding myself with so much to do. I can't even think about that stuff right now.
Hmm.
And here I am having ailments and little things going on in between me trying to do all these little things, and I'm not really understanding what's going on with my body, the stresses, any of those kind of things. I'm still just trying to push forward. Give me more, give me more. What else? Until I really don't have any more room to do things. And I'm sitting here trying to go to online schooling at Colorado Tech University, and I'm literally doing assignments up at till they're due at 11:59 p.m. I'm literally handing them in at 11:58. And because I'm trying to do everything like boom on last second. Sometimes I'm like, oh my god, I waited too long for this assignment. This assignment's way beyond my of being able to get it done in 4 hours. So now I'm gonna have to really make it be crap. And I just was trying to do way too much, I feel like. And so we when we get married, we're just, I think, at the point in time we have a new daughter. She, my stepdaughter now is, like 5, and next thing you know, boom, we're pregnant again with a little boy, and our marriage at this point in time isn't really good. We probably having another kid wasn't going to solve our problem. We already had kind of, I feel like, really started pulling apart from each other, where she was living her life, I was kind of living my life. I would work, I would come home, she would be very consumed with like watching TV or something, to the point where you're like talking to her and she's like vegged out, and then it always seemed like her attention was somewhere else, so our marriage really started failing. And I'm also doing all these other things too, not paying attention to my marriage as well, right? I have plenty to blame on myself for all of it as well. I could push a lot of blame on others, but I'm going to own my part in this. And so I do realize that my consumption of everything else really played a big part on the suffering of my relationship as well. And I just wasn't in a healthy place to begin with. I probably shouldn't have even been in a relationship to start. I had not dealt with so many things in my past of my life. I hadn't dealt with anything that presently had happened. I hadn't dealt with nothing.
Mhm.
And here I am trying to go be a dad, trying to be a husband, trying to be a worker, trying to be a player, trying to be a coach. It was a lot. It was a lot for someone who was mentally unhealthy.
And on top of that, you are trying to readjust to civilian life after military life from so long, which for a lot of people, they don't quite understand how much of a culture shock that is. And so you go from having the same people that you're eating, sleeping, fighting with, and it's this whole community. And when you get out, you are doing anything you can to try and grasp onto some sort of community because you just lost everything that you've known. The same people day in and day out. You have this job, you have this purpose, this goal, and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, this whole thing is just gone. And so then you are trying everything to readjust to the civilian life that you didn't know anything about, because when you went into the military, you went from high school to that. And so you didn't understand what civilian adult life is. So, on top of all of this other stuff that you are trying to adjust to, you're also trying to figure out how to just be an adult in the civilian world. So, I can imagine how much of a struggle that was, and that you were just trying to grasp at straws on something to hold on to, and some purpose and desire to keep going when you've just been dropped on your butt from this organization that is taking care of you everything. So, I get it.
Yeah, it's
That
like
is
being
a
thrown
lot to
into
handle.
it's really like being thrown into the pressure cooker,
Yeah.
and there's just so much pressure upon you when you get out and you really got to go try to make your life again. You were used to a steady paycheck. It was a biweekly paycheck. You knew every Friday that biweekly every other Friday you were getting paid X amount of dollars, no matter what you did that week or those 2 weeks. It was the
And you
same
knew
amount.
and you knew where you were supposed to go, what you were supposed to do, who you were supposed to talk to, and now all of a sudden it's like, nope, you got to figure everything out on your own.
3 meals were covered. Also, I didn't ever have to worry about utilities, rent, the little things that you just don't account for when you
Mhm.
get out. And then, holy shoot, man, you got to pay for
Yeah.
everything: gas,
Yeah.
trash, water, electricity, you name it.
Rent.
You're just like,
Yeah.
those little trash cans that everybody comes and picks up. Yeah, yeah, bro. Those are, you pay for that. There's a monthly bill for that too. And there's so much you do not account for as a kid, or even, pre-adult. And when you're so dependent upon an organization, parents, whatever it may be, and then boom, you're just thrown out and you're like, holy fuck. And then you buy a house and they're like, oh yeah, there's property taxes that you got to pay yearly on this. And there's a mail-in ruse taxes that they put on. There's all these little things that you really do not know about, dude. No one gives you a pamphlet and says, hey, watch out for this. When you go buy a house, this is all the things that are going to come with it. And a lot of people think it's really easy, like, oh shoot, it's like, you think it's relative to when you live in your apartment. You just pay a monthly rent. Something's wrong with something in your apartment. You call the front office. Hey, my toilet's leaking. Can you have someone come down and fix it? Yep. We'll put in a ticket. And then boom, someone comes and fix your stuff. You go buy a house. That toilet breaks on you. Well, if you ain't no damn plumber, you got to go call a plumber too. You know what I mean? And these guys ain't cheap. There's a lot of things, like I said, you just don't really account for. And it really gets to be a lot of weight on weight on weight on weight on a human being. And I think that those are the little things that we don't look at for people that are transitioning or getting out of the military, how much they really kind of had it easy for themselves. And they don't really, you take that kind of stuff for granted. that someone fixes your leaks and your squeaks and all the things that are going down with your apartment. Everything is just always done and ready for you. Now you got to figure it all out. That's a lot to do. And trying to maintain a relationship, trying to become a new dad,
Yeah. I
new
can't
house.
I can't even imagine.
So here's all the things that happened for me when I got out, right away. So, instantly gravitate towards a girl, get her pregnant within months of meeting her. She already has a 3-year-old at the time. So I become an instant stepdad. All right. And now I'm hooked into a relationship. Buy a new home. Start a new job. Play semi-pro football. Become a new head coach. I mean,
Go
those
to
all.
school. You were in school too.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. There was a good amount of handful of things that I just was like, boom, boom, boom. And then, like I told you, it really was like I'm starting to get with like a straw to get myself out of this, not even realizing, because I'm thinking, oh man, I've done the Marine Corps, I can handle it, anything, yeah. It's a little bit different, when you come in the civilian world and you just kind of don't realize it's not so much like a machine. You got to go make your own machines in this world. You know what I mean? You better find your shit. It ain't just like, hey, here's your machine and you go work it. So trying to find your way was rough for us. And then our relationship just really started failing really bad. We got 2 young ones that are about 18 months apart from one another. So, both in diapers, both, damn near like, Irish twins. They're just close enough in age. And my little boy, he's a big dude, so he ended up looking like they looked around the same age for a while there. But being a new dad and trying to do all those things, I really started seeing everything crumble. And so I started having to kind of back off of things and say, hey, maybe I can't play football. Maybe I really can't play football because it is taking up way more time. And because I was basically doing, I would have I was a coach at the high school. So we would have practice from 3:30 to about 5:30. I would haul ass after practice to semi-pro football practice because we had practice more like around 6 to 8. So from 6 to 8, I go to practice. Well, then I go drive home, which is I lived about 45 minutes away from practice. So then I drive home. By the time I'm getting home, it's pretty late. I got to wake up the next day for work around 3:30. I got to, and I got to be on the road by like 4:30 or so. So I when I get home, I don't really got time just to chill. I got to go, and then when I started doing school, I had to start finding out, oh shit, well, when do I got time to do my homework? And what is my homework today? Oh God, like, so everything was like, okay, now I had to start kind of prioritizing and getting myself, all right, what's more important? School is obviously. So I really wanted to make sure that was always, I have to graduate my school. I'm using the GI Bill for it. I get a little bit of some money while I'm going to school as well. So it was kind of like getting a little bit of a monthly payment. I think it was around $1,200 a month. So it's kind of nice to have that little extra cash. But eventually, it was Mother's Day weekend, and this is when everything just basically comes to a big end for my life, really. So it was Mother's Day weekend. My ex and I had already been in the big fights, and I was staying in the same city, but down the way. It was probably about 5 minutes away from where I lived with my sister and my brother-in-law. And I had the kids this weekend. She didn't want the kids on Mother's Day weekend because she had things going on, and so I kept my kids. It was the day after Mother's Day. Mother's Day, we had tried to get a hold of her for the kids wanted to get a hold of their mom. And so I was like, man, what the heck, dude? Like, I'm just like, then when I woke up that next morning, it was so heavily on my body that something wasn't right. So when I get up, my daughter's still asleep. My son's up. He wants to go with me. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to the house. I'm going to go to the house because I just feel like something's not right. And she's not answering. She hasn't been answering. And, it's even when I'm like, hey, your kids want to talk to you and stuff like that, she wasn't answering. So I was really concerned a little bit as well. So I go to the house with my son. I keep him in the car. I get up, I get out, I have my key, go in there, and then I go into the bedroom door and I actually try to open it and it's locked. I'm like, what the fuck? So I start knocking. I'm like, hey, and I can hear like wrestling around and her like, I can easily like, you could tell there's more than one person in this room. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh shit. I just have really horrible feeling now. I can hear her and wrestling around. I'm like, this isn't good. And then she's like, what do you want, Bryan? And I'm like, what do you mean what I want? Your kid's been trying to get in touch with you. I said, what is going on? And why are you in this, in our house with another person? They're like, um, don't come in. There's someone in here. And I'm like, I don't give a shit who's in there. Like, you're going to let me in. And so, she kind of like peeks her head through the door and she's like, get out of here. What do you need? And I'm like, boom. And I open the door and here is this dude standing there.
Mm.
And he's young, dude. He is young. He looks like he just graduated high school young. And I'm like, I'm all these things run through my head. You always talk about if I was ever in this situation, that I would do X, Y, and Z. Well, I had to really put a lot in perspective. I had a job with I had a clearance, a government clearance and all that stuff that I had. So I had to really, and I had my son's in the car. So I really surprisingly kept my cool, but didn't keep my cool. I didn't beat his ass, kept my cool, but I lost my shit and said, hey, bro, you better get the fuck out of my house before I whoop your ass. And I don't give a fuck. I know she's a nasty little, I was just calling her every mean thing I could think of. I was just in the worst hurting mode you could ever. I'm just destroyed. Here we got our kids' fucking pictures hanging up in the, in this room and everything else. And I'm like, wow, this is what it's come down to. And we were at the time still kind of working through things, talking about going through counseling, all this stuff. And you come to find out, no wonder why, man, her fucking attention's on some other little dude. And I find out later because she worked at a high school as an administrative assistant for like a continuing kid. This is a kid that through her high school.
What?
Right.
So,
Yes.
like, literally just graduated high school type thing.
Literally, dude. He's like 18, 17, 18 when she meets
Oh
him.
my
And they're like
gosh.
carrying on this fucking little behind the door relationship type shit. And
Oh, that's rough.
right, I didn't find any of that out till later. But so when I tell the dude to get the fuck out the house, I'm losing it. And I told her, I said, I cannot believe you would disrespect this house like that. I said, you need to get your shit out and get the fuck out next. I said, what you did is unexcusable at this rate in time. And so I'm just beyond my mind right now. So I'm like, I don't even know what to do with myself. I'm just like, you better leave. And I said, I'll be back and you need to be gone. And as I'm leaving, this dude doesn't even drive, right? He doesn't even have a car. Fucking thuggy dude. He's this little gangster wannabe dude. He's walking in the desert. I see him, so I shoot over there. And I'm like, hey, bro. Hey, man, I'm gonna tell you something. The only reason why I didn't whoop your ass is because maybe you didn't know about me, and I'll give you that pass. How long have you been dating or seeing her? And he's just like a few months or something. I forgot what he said. I was like, what? Wow. And I mean, we were still like, everything was no wonder why everything had been going to shit is because she's been doing X, Y, and Z. With I couldn't even tell you what they were doing before. If anything, I don't know. But emotionally, there was something going on. I don't know about physically, but there was definitely they were invested while we were still going and being married. But a lot of everything started making sense to me when all that transpired because I was like, dude, no wonder why your ass is just so like disconnected from this relationship. Your feelings are invested now in someone else. And you can I now it just everything made sense to me when that came through. So, anyways, I'm having words with this dude, and I'm just like, "What do you realize she's got 3 kids, bro? What are you gonna do with 3 kids, man?" And I said, "What do you do for a living?" He's like, "I'm an entertainer," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, so you're an entertainer, right?" And I said, "So, what, you're a rapper or something?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I've been doing this." And I was like, "Oh God, all right, so all right, man." I said, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna tell you something. Stay the fuck away from my kids. You go around my kids ever again, man. You and I are gonna have some serious problems. I don't care what you do with her. I'm done with her. But you do not go around my kids." And I drove off, went back to my sister's house, and I just completely had a breakdown. Everything, my world as I had known it, came to a complete end. I'm now not. I'm in my mind thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm not going to be there for my kids every waking moment." And that was really rough, a really hard pill to swallow. I am a product of divorce myself. And my parents got a divorce. I did not want the same thing for my kids because I understand the shit that I went through over my parents being divorced and situations I was put in and things of that nature because of single parents struggle. And a lot of times, newly single parents really don't know what the fuck to do, and they lose it. And sometimes we gravitate towards other things to try to get our heart's desires and our pains away from us, and we're trying to find any other way to get rid of that pain. Alcohol, drugs, sex, friends that don't give a shit about you. You know, you really are just starting to go ballistic, and that's really like I said, all that came to my head because I had lived with both my mom and my dad through the divorce. And I watched the shit that happened. I went to bars with my dad. You know, my dad left me by myself lots of times. And my mom was dating, got in a fight with one of her guys that she was dating with, fist fight, physical, over another girl. And they came over there. It's just so, these were things that I ended up going and experiencing. I'm thinking, oh, gosh, damn it, man. Now I'm going to put my kids through the same thing. The only thing that I can control is on my end. I can't control what happens when they're with their mom, who they're with, what she puts them through. I can't, it's beyond me. Even though I tried throughout the marriage to put my foot down or intervene on things I heard, all that did was came and be a backlash to me. Right. As I'm the bad guy, but I'm the one trying to correct the problem. But once again, the way I react to things, I've always been an overreactor. I come strong with my reactions, and I could be right in the situation, like I said before, but because of the way I reacted to it, I seem like I'm the aggressor or I'm the mean one. And that's the way it looked always to my kids, because my kids would tell me situations and I would just be, what the fuck? And, I'm losing it in front of them. They're thinking I'm losing it on them because they're, and it's an uncomfortable situation. If you've ever been around someone losing their shit, sometimes it's a little uncomfortable.
And
And I
even if
kept,
it's not, even if it's not your problem, you feel like it's your problem because it triggers your own issues of abandonment and self-worth. And yes, I
and
get it.
think how the kids feel, right? I just told my dad this, and now he blew up on this. Oh no, I'm the one that set the bomb, and now the kids in their head, and now they're scared because he's going to go tell mom. And now mom is going to yell at me because dad freaked out on her because I told him I wasn't, just the whole mind fuck that it does. So my two oldest ones, they really went through a lot as kids. And I own all that. I definitely own it. I know, once again, like I said, being a single parent when you don't want it and you unexpect it could really be hard. But I did make a rule for myself. And I followed this rule very well. I always told myself when I have my kids, it is my time with my kids. They will not go stay with other people. I will not make plans with people. I will spend my time with my kids and try to make the best out of that situation and not pawn them off on others and go out and party. I have every other weekend to do those things. So when I had my kids, that was something I always told myself. And to the point where I didn't even let them go stay with grandmas and grandpa. Hey, it's my time. And I didn't want to feel like I was that dad dropping them off with my parents and going out and doing something. So I do pride myself in that part, and I did better there. I could have done a lot better in so many other aspects, and it was hard. I moved a lot too at the time, and dated a lot right off rip. And I exposed my kids to other ladies, other kids, um, because that's the hard part when you're dating and you have kids. You do have to have them meet the other person. I mean, there's just no way to progress your relationship without that little key element, because at the end of the day, you are with your kids. When their kids come, everybody's got to jive, or
Yep.
otherwise it really makes for a really uncomfortable situation all the time, and you don't want to live like that. So I know that I was a hurt dad. I was really acting out of a lot of hurt, doing things like partying, drinking my ass off for a while there. I lost myself, and I couldn't afford to live at the house that I was living at. We were living on dual income. And guess what? Everything was in my damn name. And she sure as hell didn't care about that part. So I ended up losing an entire home. And I don't really have a place to go. I'm trying to go live with my sister. I went and lived with my sister and brother-in-law for a while. But they got their house is like a 3-bedroom home, and they just had, they have my nephew, and then they had another one a little bit later, but their house wasn't very suiting for myself and my 2 kids. And for a while there, I actually took my stepdaughter. So I had 3 of them. And then I had to kind of stop taking my stepdaughter because of how combative her mom was. And I was
Mm.
concerned that she would use Lily against me, her daughter, in such a way that I would lose my other 2. So I really I ended up having to make a really hard decision and say, hey, I cannot take all 3 of them anymore, especially the way you're treating me over this. And I wasn't used to paying any kind of child support or anything like that either. And when she goes and takes me to child support, they they gouge me really hard, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't live now. She's taken a huge portion of my check.
So
It,
you went from having dual income into this house, and you guys are both helping, to now you're split income, and on top of that, now you're having to pay child support and pay her. So
so
your
my
income
split
has been
income just
cut
got
into,
split
like,
again.
yes, yes, that is miserable. And then still trying to have your kids part-time, still trying to live and function. I can't imagine the struggle
And
that
so
single parents have to go through.
and
Yeah.
then mind you, I'm working at a job that has a security clearance. And if you go through any kind of financial situations or financial burdens, you have to bring it to them.
Mhm.
Well, when you do that, it sets off an investigation. The FBI comes down, and they sit there and they go over your entire anything finance wise. You may be struggling with this little thing, But now they just said, we're throwing the whole caboodle at it. So now, on top of me fucking losing it all, I mean, and once again, I'm newly out of the Marine Corps. Failure is such a bad thing in the Marines. I'm feeling so bad right now. I am at the point of like, is it better for me to fucking end it all? Is this burden beyond my, something I can take care of? Because I feel like right now everything is coming fucking so hard on me that I can't even get it off of me, and because the world is literally falling, crumbling. I'm losing everything, losing my family, losing the house I had, losing cars, losing anything that was financed. Motherfuckers
And
just coming over and taking it.
now you're at risk of losing your clearance too because you've got all this stuff
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah. And then I'm being badgered by an FBI agent about all my finances, like as though I'm the one that decided to put myself there. And I had to keep explaining to myself, that's because of the divorce. That's because of the divorce. That's because of the divorce. If you guys look up to the fucking point of when the marriage crumbled, you could see that I was good to go. So please, like, be cognizant of that. They're making my problem even worse by just boom, 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 badgering me. And so I'm feeling, my self-worth is feeling like shit. And I don't know, Allison, this is when I started drinking more and really partying and making careless decisions. Because at the end of the day, I was like, fuck it. If I die, I die. Because that's how careless I started to get with it. Because I just was at a point of like, man, I didn't want to kill myself. But if I got killed during what the fuck I was doing, I really wouldn't care.
And I wanted to just touch on that. Okay. A lot of people don't realize that that is called passive suicidal ideation. A lot of people think, well, I'm not suicidal because I'm not making any plans and I don't want to actually take myself out. But if you have those thoughts, hey, I don't want to wake up in the morning. Hey, I'm imagining all these accidents. Hey, I'm imagining not waking up and all of this stuff happening. And if it happens, awesome. I'm great. And so you slowly but surely desensitize to the world, and you slowly but surely start getting more numb and more careless in your choices. That is called passive suicidal ideation. And if you have that, call 988, go talk to a therapist, go talk to somebody, because it could very quickly switch to active suicidal ideation. So don't be scared to admit, hey, I am having these passive moments. So I think it's awesome that you can see it now. But when you're in it, just like me, when I was in it, I couldn't see that I was actually suicidal. I could not imagine. So I'm really, really grateful that you and I both can like recognize like, hey, this happened, but we did not take that step into the active. We did not take that, And so, yeah, I just wanted to make sure we bring that up.
No, that's really
be
good,
wary.
though.
Yes.
That's a really good point, because honestly, I didn't even think of it like that till you just really said it, right?
Yes.
Because I was just being super careless with my life because I was in such a shamble that, like I said, I don't think I've ever had the nuts to really take my own life, but I was certain, like I said, if my shit wrapped around the pole or something, at the time I really didn't care.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I lost my world. My kids, I don't have my kids all the time now, and that adversely affect my relationship with my kids, right? Because I've always been more of the enforcer, the one that has boundaries and grounding, like grounded a little bit more in terms of, hey, your actions have consequences. If you do something bad, you're gonna, I'm not gonna just say, oh, forget about it. We're gonna talk about it. You know what I mean? So I always held my kids accountable. They hated that at a young age. So coming over to dad's house where dad is like, hey, no, we're not doing that. Don't talk to me like that. Hey, stop hitting each other. And, oh, hey, now you guys are grounded, or you go over here and you time out. They didn't like that part. So that really started playing effect on my relationship with them. And then, of course, my ex would take that opportunity to take digs at me and use my kids as basically weaponizing them and making me feel horrible. Your kids don't even want to be with you. They don't even want to come see you. I have to force them. I start getting all these horrible messages about the kind of person and human I am. And once again, it's just destroying me. And she knows that because fatherhood was always important to me and also being in the family. I always had visions of being a dad. I really did. And I had already picked my son Austin's name out when I was like in high school. I always visual being a dad, but not in the situation that I got myself into. Right back where I saw my dad going from. And boy, when I sat in my dad's seat, did I see my dad from a different view lens? Because I really at this time was like, man, my dad was a hurt dad too, man. My dad went through some bad shit too. No wonder why he acted the way he did. It's not excusable. It's more understandable though.
Yes. There's a difference with that. When you can have compassion for what someone's going through, it doesn't mean that you are condoning what they did, but
Right.
you are also no longer condemning. And you're just saying this is what it is. I can see it from the other side. It doesn't mean that it's okay with what happened, but it means that I can be okay with it.
And I can understand more of like along the lines of where your mindset might have been as a really hurt dad.
Yes.
You had your kids torn away from you. You life as you knew it changed. I went through the exact same thing, right? And it really humbled me. I never will forget the day that I actually pulled all three of my kids aside to kind of break it to them. I couldn't even keep myself to composure together. I was a mental wreck and I was crying so much in front of them and just holding them, all three of them, because I was so scared of losing that life that we had. And I knew I was having to let go of it. And I knew that day when I was holding all three of them, life was never going to be the same because I have already went through that fucking reality as a kid. And I know how hard of a path it is, especially when the parents are toxic and can't co-parent, can't get along, and just want to fucking do anything to make the other person be mad. That is just horrible for the kids to live in that environment all the time. My kids just listened about how horrible of a daddy I was all the time from that side of the family. And so I was always up against being bad mouthed and not being able to do things because at the end of the day, when she took me to child support and all that, it was so devastating because I owed back child support too. And so they were taking a really large portion of my check. And I like I didn't even have enough money to keep none of my bills. So it's just I stayed in and squatted in my home for as long as I could. And then I took whatever I could out of that house and left so much stuff there because I couldn't even take it all. Didn't have nowhere to go. Could only get a 10 by 10 little storage unit. Couldn't afford to go do anything else. And that 10 by 10 unit, couldn't even afford to have that. I was always struggling to keep that thing from going into auction and things like that. So, um, my world was just going to shit so bad. And like I said, that's when the carelessness bar rose up and I just didn't care. I just started going against my morale. Anything, my morale, what my morals and everything that I've ever believed in, everything went out the window. I came very numb, very, very, very numb. And I guess I'll kind of just leave it there because I mean, my life does change, right? I do everything kind of gets better for me. It's just that initial devastation of going through the divorce, losing my two kids, three really at the time, right? My stepdaughter as well, and having to learn how to adjust to life without the normalcy. And then I for a while there, it was really rough for me to see my kids without being emotional. And I couldn't stop it. And I knew I was doing them fucking so much harm by being that way. But I couldn't stop it. I didn't know how to manage my emotions around them. And I tried so hard, but it would just rip me up when I would see them and smiles and everything. It just ripped me the freaking pieces. So, you know, if you're going through some kind of a divorce or separation with someone, man, just be very mindful of your kids. Put the feelings aside that you have with another adult and realize those little kids deserve fucking way better than toxicity and instability, yelling, feeling like everything's their fault. You know, there's just so much that comes from being toxic with your ex when you have kids. You don't really gain nothing out of it. You lose a lot. So I guess I'll go ahead and end it there. Um, you know, I have plenty of stuff that I probably left out in there, but for the most part, my landing was, I would say, just consumption. I over consumed myself. So if I have anything to say for anybody that is getting out, take your time, have a plan. It's really easy to get caught up in the day to day and not have a plan to get out. But if you're only at 4 and you're done or after 4, even if you plan on making a life out of it, dude, you could be on a training exercise and blow your knee out and be medically discharged. Just always have some kind of a backup plan for when you get out. Don't feel like you got to go boil the ocean either. Take things into smaller portions. Don't go trying to save the world. I'm telling you, it is no good for you, for anybody else. Take things one thing at a time. The main thing is focus on yourself when you get out. Focus on you. What are the areas that can you help yourself to be a better human being? So that way, when you're ready, you can give anybody the best version of yourself. But don't try to bring everybody along while you're trying to fix it. And then those people throw stuff at you while you're trying to fix it and break things even worse. Don't do that to yourself. Allow yourself that time. Allow yourself to be selfish. Remember, not self-centered, but selfish. You got anything you want to add? Or well,
Yeah,
we didn't even do a poem. Gosh dang it. Let's
it's
do a
okay.
let's
I
do a
I'll
poem.
I'll do one. Yeah. So, thank you for sharing your story. It's interesting the challenges that we go through when we're getting out, coming from, just that structured life to, coming into, hey, now we've got to figure things out. And then on top of that, we have all the childhood stuff that we did not ever process through. And then you've got the war stuff you didn't process through. So you're trying to make a life with the limited knowledge you have, trying to struggle through all of this stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah, and then
hard things that we have to go through.
let's try to go get girlfriends in between when you're going through a divorce. And
Yes. And
while you're actively in a divorce, I'm sitting here trying to date and think that that's just gonna make shit go away. I always
yeah,
thought, oh, move on to the next one. That the erases the other one. Not when you got a lot of things going on.
yeah.
And so I think that I really tried to do too much and wasn't processing any of it.
Well, I think that you ended kind of at a perfect time because it's the same thing for me. Like we kind of shared in these last couple episodes, kind of the struggles that we went through. And then next time we'll kind of start talking about our journey of coming back up, right?
Yes, this was
And
be the reckless portion of me,
yeah,
right?
and
And
same.
then there's going to be the rebuilding, right? And
Yes.
and that process is the longer process, but the rebuilding
Yes.
that is the next step for yes.
And so it's kind of perfect timing because the poem that I wanted to read for you and is one of the first poems that I wrote in my sobriety. There was a couple I wrote before, but this one is is called The Journey. I realize, with all of these episodes, I have not done this one. This is the beginning of my journey of finding the healing. You
Oh,
know what I
nice.
mean?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of perfect timing because guess what I got yesterday?
Oh my gosh.
I got my book, and
Marie.
I wish we could flip around. So, because to me, this is
Oh my
backwards. I
gosh.
don't
You're
know if it's
just
backwards for you.
uber. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's perfect. No, it shows up right.
Oh, okay.
That
So for
looks
me, it's backwards.
amazing.
So that's
No,
funny.
yeah.
So yeah. So more me that I used to be, a journey to freedom. Okay. And so my book is out. I haven't started selling online yet. I've got to figure out a few things, but if you are interested, please email me. Okay. But the perfect timing is, we just shared about our painful years, right? And the very first poem that I have in here, so it's The Journey, because it's the first four poems is part of a series. It's called the Journey series, and so that's what I base this on.
Oh
More
my
me
gosh,
than
I'm
I
so
used to
happy
be.
for you. I know you're so
Journey to
happy to have
freedom.
that in your hand, right?
I
You
am
probably
so
haven't put that
happy.
thing down. You put this in there. I know this thing's carrying around you through the house like
Yes, yes. But yeah, so I got it yesterday. Again, if you're interested, send an email and I will add you to the book launch email and get you a copy of it. Um, but anyways, so I I'm just gonna read it right out of the book. We'll
cool.
do it
Yeah,
that way.
exactly.
But yes, so we go in here and it's got my poetry and it's got some of my photography in there and a few
Oh,
other
that's so
things. This
awesome.
is this is actually a picture I took in
Wow.
Maple Grove, Utah. And if you open it, there's the full picture.
That's so cool.
So yeah.
Jeez. I
So
love it.
anyways,
That looks great.
I
It
am
came
super
out so
excited.
awesome.
Thank you. But yes, like I said, perfect timing because I'll just give a little background on this poem. I was almost a year sober, and what had happened was it was Christmas Eve, and I was doing some meditation, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing okay. This is my first Christmas. I'm facing a lot of emotions with it. And I had this picture that God put in my mind of a man holding a bottle. Okay, like because I was almost a year sober, and he was holding a bottle, and he was standing there, and he had his hand up against the wall, and he's just shaking his head, holding this bottle, like just being miserable. And his shadow is a little boy in the corner, curled up in a ball, crying.
Hmm.
And that was when God gave me this poem. And like some of my poems, it takes me, months or years to write, and some of them just come to me quickly. And this is one of those that came to me quickly. So this was the beginning of my journey. Okay. So a scared little girl was running to and fro, trying to find something or someone she didn't know. 1,000 thoughts were whirling and creeping inside her mind, a doorway to her heart in darkness she couldn't find. Then a fire started stirring and shining from up above, a little spark of hope, of healing, and of love. It started to brighten the gloomy way. The path began switching from night to day. As her feet began to twitch and tingle, her frame of mind went surely single. She knew at that moment what she must do, but where would she get the strength to make it through? Ahead lay mush and cracks and stones that she felt would surely break her bones. Bravely, she began pushing, jumping, and moving. Her heart muscles started slowly improving. For as long as she kept her eyes on her next step towards her prize, the path grew rails of hope. And from the ceiling came a rope. The gift of these tools helped her to fight in doing what she knew to be right. And when she stood firmly at the door, she had no idea what was in store. But she knew that she need not show fear, for suddenly a small peephole did appear. When she began viewing what was inside, she was truly filled with a humbled pride. For her faith and good works were finally rewarded, and the doubt inside her mind was completely aborted. She knew in that moment she could never explain the unique peace that filled her heart. All words seemed too plain. While faithfully pushing the door ajar, she heard a soft voice boom from afar. You're welcome here. I've missed you so. But if you want, you are free to go. And when you decide you want to return, that negativity inside you, I'll gladly burn. I've done it many times before, but it's something you've forgotten or tried to ignore. The love you are feeling can forever be yours. This comfort is for all believers who walk through my doors. When you finally decide to stay here with me, I promise I will carry you into eternity.
Outstanding. Another great one. And how perfect. I mean, all your poems really go really well along with our coffee talk. That's for sure. And
Thank you.
always fit with what we got going on. Well, I hope you guys are enjoying this. Once again, Marie and I are totally opening our lives to you guys, and it's not always easy. And a lot of it is that we got to accept some of the bad things we've done, and it's okay because we're sharing it. And the reason why we're sharing this stuff is because we have processed through a lot of it, and we've worked through it, and now we don't feel so ashamed to talk about the bad things we've done because after you deal with it, there's no more shame in it. Once
And
you
we want to
process it,
share we
no,
want
okay,
to
go ahead.
share with you our hope and our joy of getting to the other side of these things and letting go. I'm going to cry. Letting go of the resentments, letting go of the shame, and being able to find that joy and that peace on the other side. But we have to tell you the messy parts in order to show you how we cleaned it up. And that's what I'm excited about. Our next one is that we'll get started with, here is how we started cleaning up things. Here is how we found that hope. Here is how we found that faith to keep going and to be able to be here for you guys.
Yeah, we're literally taking you guys to the point of when we were a seed, and we've blossomed, we've died off, we re-vegged. There's so much that we've gone through. Um, but it's important, like we said, to share these kind of things because we want you guys to understand carrying shame, burdens, faults, all that stuff with you on a daily is so consuming. You sometimes don't even realize how consuming it is because you're just so consumed. But sometimes you got to slow down. If you need help, ask for help. If you need to talk to someone and you don't want to talk to anybody, you're just so ashamed of what you've done or you feel a certain way, call Crisis Lifeline and just keep your name discreet. But it's okay not to be okay. And it's you guys holding on to shame and all that stuff. All that's going to do is just bring you down and make you feel horrible about yourself. So you got to release that. We all make mistakes in our life. We all make horrible. Sometimes some of them are really bad. But that's sometimes not the defining factor of ourselves. That's just a part of our story. And that's the reason why we got to where we got. So understand that you may be going through some dark times. You may be in a bad place. You can get yourself out of there. And the sooner the better. But it's also not a race. It's not a race. It's more of a marathon, something you got to be there for the long journey. And sometimes you're going to get knocked down, feel so tired you don't want to keep doing it anymore, you want to give up. Don't. You'll miss out on so much in your life later on. There's so much more fruit down that path. You may be in
Don't
a place of desert, but you'll get to the fruit.
don't stop till the miracle happens. That's what they say in recovery. Don't stop
Perfect.
till the miracle happens because the miracle is just on the other side of today.
Absolutely.
Sometimes.
Yep. So, hey, guys, just keep on trucking out there. Please. We need every one of you every single day. Your kids need you, your family needs you. You are loved, you are needed. Like I said, we're here. If you ever need us, you can email me at everydaysasaturday 365 at yahoo.com. I'll also include Marie's email in there. So if you guys want to shoot her an email, you want to get a copy of her book, then let's start getting those books in other people's hands because she has some great poetry out there and it may help you through your time. You know, she has so many different poems in there, from her worst of times to her best of times. So, and all in between, right? So, there's definitely a poem for wherever you're at in your life or in your recovery. But before we go, I do have a new podcast coming out. Do a quick little trailer on that, and then we'll head on out.
Division doesn't happen by accident. It's engineered, layered into our systems, etched into our history, and sold to us as truth. Divisive Measures is the podcast that pulls back the curtain. Host Bryan takes you down the rabbit hole, into the policies, the propaganda, the pain, to ask one question: who profits from keeping us apart? From PTSD to systemic oppression, from inherited trauma to digital echo chambers. This show doesn't flinch. It listens. It questions. It connects. Divisive Measures, premiering July 1st on Spotify, because the only way out of the divide is through it.
All right. So, yeah, Divisive Measures going to be coming out July 1st. I tackle a lot of things that I've been kind of feeling really heavy on my heart, and that is division amongst the country. And as a veteran, it really doesn't sit well with me to watch our country crumble over disagreements, or they don't like this, they don't like that, and then we don't like each other. It's just crazy. So this I'm going down the rabbit hole and looking into what kind of divisive measures are out there that are making us hate each other. And boy, I am learning a lot. It has started from the beginning of mankind, division, you know, and sometimes we subconsciously create division because that's the way we've been raised, and you don't think any other sort, because we sometimes generationally carry on things that we were taught, whether they're good or bad. But anyhow, we won't talk about that much more. You have any last things before we head out, Marie?
Just keep up the fight, you guys, and know you're not alone, and reach out to us.
Yep. And please, you guys, just like the show, subscribe, share it with your friends and family. Doesn't cost a thing. We drop episode of Coffee Talk every Thursday. And if we ever get one on a Monday, you get a little bonus. Sometimes that may happen. We don't know. But for the most part, they'll be every Thursday. And stay tuned for the next week when we kind of talk about more of the rise, you know, the on the journey to the rise, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know how we say, so don't let the day kick your ass. Make sure you're out there kicking it. Until next time, guys. We'll see you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.